I'm going to discuss a lot of things in this video. I'm going to talk about CommandCode, a frontier coding agent with taste. We will take a look at what we are launching this week, a bunch of different things, how taste works, our new branding that we are building, Kimi K2.5, Kimi K2.6, DeepSeek V4 Pro and Flash release, and then at the end, we will discuss which model should you be using if you are using an open source model and why, right? So let's get started. Hello, I am Ahmad, Awais, founder and CEO of CommandCode, and for the last 25 years, I've been writing a lot of code. I'm an open source developer with over 300 open source projects, and I love building automation tools and CLIs. So let's talk about CommandCode. CommandCode is my company. Just a couple months ago, we raised $5 million in seed from all these amazing people, including the founders of GitHub, Supabase, Snake, Recent, Apple, Cloudflare, and a bunch of amazing operators and developer-oriented founders, like from Replit, Socket, and what build a phenomenal developer experience for AI engineers. If you are an engineer, if you're a developer, I care deeply about your developer experience because if you even look at my past, that is what I've always done. I've built a lot of tools which can help you accelerate your productivity, make your code really good, and generally make you faster. So CommandCode is my bid in that particular direction, right? So a couple of things. Right now we are going through, launch week where we are launching a bunch of amazing things about CommandCode, and I think this is going to turn into CommandCode launch weeks because we have more stuff to launch for a small team than we are able to, announce on just a week. And it feels like it is turning into a, CommandCode launch weeks because we are probably going to continue launching a bunch of different things in the coming weeks as well. So what is CommandCode? CommandCode is your run-of-the-mill frontier coding agent. It can do it all. It can ship full stack projects, features, fixes, basically anything that you have gotten used to with all these coding agents that you might have used, like Claude Code or Cursor or whatnot, right? The thing is, CommandCode, I started building CommandCode in 2020. It was called CLAI, a CLI with AI in it, and I was just personally using it. And the thing that I hated most about all the coding agents is that I have all this experience, all this knowledge of how I write code, and none of these coding agents were using the code or writing the code the way I do. And even if I provided them with some feedback like, yeah, this looks good, oh no, this does not look good, or if I edited some AI generated floppy code, my coding agent would not learn a thing from me. So I wanted to change that. And that is why we call CommandCode as a coding agent with taste. And the taste bit is you can think of taste engine and a taste model, a neuro symbolic model that we created. You can just simply think of it as a model that is continuously observing what you are doing with your code that is being generated by AI. And it does not learn anything on its own. Everything that it learns is dumped right into your code base as a skill. So basically, Taste can auto-generate your project level skills for you. And CommandCode is available as an interactive headless and very, very soon under experimental flag as a sandbox. It can do it all, skills, reviews, and it has a bunch of bundled skills as well, like slash review. And there's something we are going to do about design soon. So just, very excited about that. We have reflective context engineering, and you can also share your coding sessions and your coding tests with your team. So this is the same problem. Instead of endlessly correcting your coding agents, how about you use a coding agent that can fix your rules and update your skills for you? And generally, this is what it looks like. When you're working without taste, you're mostly interrupting your coding sessions and asking for things that you want, like build me a CLI to do something, use TypeScript, and when you see your coding agent use TSE, if you're like me, you're like, no, I prefer using TSUP. Or if you're like me, you're using Vitis for testing, and this just continuously grows, right? On the other hand, if you're building this with CommandCode, Command will look at all of these as learnings, right? It will figure out that these are the things that you prefer. And the next time you build something like this, it would just know what it is to write code like you. So the next time you say, build me a CLI, it will just be able to pick a lot of those things, a lot of your choices for you. And all of these learnings are actually pretty much transparent, right? Let me actually show you what that looks like. So, and generally your learnings look like this. This is my entire CLI taste that CommandCode has picked up while it was observing how I built CLIs. And I was building with AI, right? So it was not like I was writing a lot of code manually like in the old days. But even with building with AI, I give my coding agent a lot of feedback, like don't do this. Or for example, whenever I'm publishing a NPM package, can I publish to check if that name is not squatted and it is available or whatnot? So all you got to do is do this npx taste pull mls/cli, and it will download this taste in your repository. And when you run CommandCode in that repository, it will be able to use these things as you build code. So to summarize, it picks up your taste, generally makes you 2x faster, and it helps you ship a lot more faster because your coding reviews become rather much easier. And right now, as I mentioned, we are going through the launch week. We have launched hooks. We have created a bunch of our design team created a bunch of design taste packages, and we are also launching a $1 coding plan. Right, it has all the open source models, including Kimi, GLM, DeepSeek, Quen, Minimax, and a bunch others you can find on our documentation site. And in this plan, you get like $10 worth of usage. Obviously, there are bigger plans. You can go ultra and buy $200 worth of plans or whatnot. But I think this will make running a lot of open models very, very easy. We've also added GPT models to Command Code, and we are launching a free course on learning how to build with AI. So if you would like to block dangerous commands or format something when a tool is called, go ahead, take a look at our hooks documentation and build a custom hook and hack around with command code. Or if you want to design a landing page like one of these websites, like Figma, Vercel, Apple, Claude, Spotify, Nike, and a bunch of others like NVIDIA or whatnot, take a look at one of these packages. For example, let me actually go to the blog post here. All these packages were just built by our design engineer. Imagine what you can do if you were building with command code and it is learning all of your coding taste. The next projects that you build with command code would become so much easier and you will be able to build a lot more faster with it, right? All you have to do is pull a taste package from command code and just prompt like, build me an Apple like that can do this, this, and that. And you can also transparently look into what that taste looks like, right? And when you start changing things, maybe you don't like when you press a button and it shrinks 5%. When you say that, yeah, don't do this. And you can also change this taste either manually by just editing this file, or you can just talk to command code that, yeah, fix this, don't do that. And you will see all sorts of fun things completely automatically update in this file for you. One more thing I am really excited about is that in command code, we are experimenting with our brand. We are going deep into this constellation, spaceman, astronaut, explore the unknown vibe. And I would love to know what you think about it. We've been designing our new logo and a bunch of swag. And if you suggest something that we end up adopting, feel free to, just reach out, dim me anywhere on X, on LinkedIn or whatnot. And we will be sending you a lot of swag. The t-shirt that I just ordered, this is the back of that t-shirt. I think these look really, really dope. And we're excited to see how this turns out. And now let's talk a little bit more about the models, right? All of the coding agent makes sense. By the way, if you're watching, can you comment what is your favorite open source coding model if you have been using one? Maybe also why? Make a Shopify clone, YouTube videos, views tanking. I don't watch any of those videos. I find myself that I don't watch any of the videos that are talking about, well, here are the 5 TypeScript libraries you gotta use. Here's a UI library that you have to build, right? I don't know. With AI, I like to build all of my dependencies myself, and it is also a lot more fun, right? Salman is talking about open code. So I don't know if I've talked about this a lot, but I think open code has no taste. Open code is more like Microsoft and Windows, right? I think they've dumped everything into their coding agent, all the providers, all the models, and they just leave a lot to be desired, right? I know we are not open source yet, but we are going to be open source soon. We have decided to go open source and become a tasteful agent like Apple, which is not like, very bare bones, which comes with a lot of good stuff in it, pre-decided. Like, for example, when you install WordPress, you get the WordPress authentication for free, right? So it's not going to be as bare bones as something like Pi, which I feel like is more like Linux, where, it is free, it is open source, but you got to figure out your own drivers, right? On the other end, open code is, I feel like they have no taste in building this entire thing. And they've just added every single feature possible into their code base, which makes it very, very big and hard to hack around. This is my gut feeling. But yeah, you be your own judge, right? We are going to be open sourcing command code to make it hackable. So that really well designed coding agent with a lot of amazing bundled skills. Our slash review is really good. We are launching slash design, which will have a bunch of amazing things. All of this will be open source. So you'll get all of our design taste, our coding taste, and you will be able to hack our coding agent. You will be able to use it with whatever coding subscription you have. Like you will be able to use Codex subscription, maybe even Claude, if you can figure that out, or any of your providers or whatnot, or you could use our provider, where we work a lot on the open source model to make sure we only serve you the best possible models, the best possible way, not in quantized, format or whatnot, right? Again, that is a separate video. I will probably share a lot more on this. Yeah, I was answering Salman Arif's comment on X, by the way, everybody. So pretty excited about this, right? Okay, let's talk about this part of the video. I get asked a lot that why do you use open source model? Why should one use open source models, and which open source models are actually good? So I think we are going to be discussing 3 different models in this video ahead. Kimi K2.5, which is I think the first open source model that I found to be very, very good. And this is the same model that served as the base of Composer model on Cursor. If you're using Cursor and you're in auto mode, you are basically using Kimi K2.5, right? This model is actually as good as Sonnet 4.5, maybe Sonnet 4.6. And at the cost of maybe 20 times less cost than Sonnet and Opus. So yeah, this was the first open source model where I felt like, yeah, the open models are getting very, very close to coding agents, right? And we'll go look a deep dive into this. But before, I was able to talk much about Kimi K2.5, Kimi Moonshot actually went ahead and launched Kimi K2.6. And Kimi K2.6 is like Opus 4.6. Right? And this is now I'm starting to understand what 2.5 and 2.6 is. You can just add 2 to this and figure out what this model is competing with, right? So Kimi K2.5 is competing with Sonnet 4.5 and sometimes Opus 4.5, but mostly Sonnet 4.5. But Kimi K2.6 is as good, if not better, than Sonnet 4.6. And I often feel like that it can compete, match, or sometimes beat Opus 4.6 performance at 1 by 25, like 25th the cost, right? Based on where you're buying it from, right? Kimi K2.6 is an open source, state-of-the-art coding, long horizon execution model, which can also handle agent swarms, which is a bad idea, by the way. I don't think this actually works. Everybody's using, 16 parallel agents or whatnot. I don't think that actually works. For me personally, I kind of stop at 4 to 6 parallel agents. That is how far I'm able to go without actually just randomly wasting money. And it is built to put them all to work, right? It can build complete products, run complex workflows through autonomous coordinated agents, and create reusable skills at scale for you. One person can now achieve what once required a team, right? And I kind of agree. And the biggest problem is Kimi K2.6. If you are using Kimi K2.6 right now, I am willing to bet you are not actually using Kimi K2.6. The thing is, Kimi K2.6 is a little bit more expensive than 2.5. It is harder to host, it is a bigger model, and most of the 50 plus vendors that we looked at, and tens of them that we talked to, are serving a very bad variant of this. A lot of providers are actually serving a mini version of Kimi K2.6. You can't judge how good Kimi K2.6 is if you're not using the real raw full power in a really good inference engine behind Kimi K2.6, right? If it is not the real raw model, you are just using a mini version of it. Like instead of think of it like deciding how good DeepSeek V4 is by using DeepSeek V4 Flash instead of Pro, which is 4 times cheaper, I think, or even more, right? So that is one thing that you should be aware of. We've worked very, very hard in CommandCode, even while building a $1 per month coding plan, to build partnerships to serve non-quantized models. Right now, all of the models that we are serving on CommandCode are non-quantized. It's not going to stay the same forever, but right now, the Kimi K2.6 that you get in either of these tiers is not quantized. It has the raw horsepower, it's the raw model, and you can actually taste the flavor of how good it is, right? In the future, if we do decide to do, a bunch of quantized models, we will make sure to, mention that as much. This is the thing about taste I was mentioning. A bunch of different coding harnesses have decided to, well, we also support Kimi K2.6, but do you, or are you serving a smaller version of it, right? So if you're using Kimi K2.6, if you've made up your mind how good or bad this is, are you sure it is quantized or not? If you're not sure, I recommend that you try us or somebody where you are sure that you're not using a quantized smaller variant of Kimi K2.6 to be able to understand how good this model is. right? Now they have a bunch of things that they've built with Kimi. And the third model that I am thinking of discussing today is DeepSeek V4. So DeepSeek launched last Thursday. My better half, Maida, actually took me to a concert by Diljit on Thursday last week. And while I was there, DeepSeek dropped V4 Pro and V4 Flash, right? And it was, I think, like 11 p.m. or whatnot when our entire team started shipping this started using this model on command code, and we shipped it within like half an hour of it. We were the first coding agent harness, as we know of, even before open code, that had already shipped DeepSeek. I just thought of something. What was the date? Yeah, it was 23rd, right? Yes. There you go. 10:22 p.m., right? And open code 1 hour later, 11:25, and 8:24 is the actual announcement, right? So DeepSeek last Thursday announced V4 preview the Pro and Flash models. Our team shipped this model. It's really, really good. And we also saw a bunch of harnesses launch this in not such a good way. I ended up seeing a lot of people were disappointed by this model on different harnesses. Again, I think early on it was not working or something. I don't think that's an open code issue or whatnot. It's just if you made up your mind early on about this model, maybe you gotta give it another try or whatnot, right? Anyway, we launched this model very, very quickly, and there are a couple of things that I really like about this model. So let's go take a deeper dive into what this model looks like. First of all, it's a really big model. DeepSeek V4 preview is officially live and open source. Welcome to the era of cost-effective 1 million context-length models that are open source. I think this is the first SOTA model which has 1 million context length. It's pretty huge, 1.6 trillion parameters. And it also comes with a smaller variant V4 Flash. And it is crazy how cheap it is, right? If you take a look at their benchmarks, you can see it's performing really, really well, especially for SWE and coding, like terminal bench coding related tasks. As you can imagine, it has a lot of rich world knowledge and it's really good at math, STEM, and coding. And then there is a V4 Flash, which is really good for agentic tasks. I am having a lot of fun with V4 Flash, by the way, right? Let me share a little bit more about that in just a bit. So if you look at artificialanalysis.ai and take a look at the Kimi and DeepSeek models, so a lot of people have only tried Kimi 2.5, which is here on the artificial analysis coding index. This is how intelligent these models are. It represents the weighted average of coding benchmarks artificial analysis index is built on top of, which is terminal bench hard in scicode. So if you have only used Kimi K2.5, this is the worldview you have. And also, if you have used it in the raw form, not the quantized version, right? Kimi K2.6 is much better, right? A whole lot better. And then there is DeepSeek V4 Pro. I think DeepSeek V4 Pro and Kimi K2.6 are almost the same. Right now, DeepSeek V4 is not really available with a bunch of providers, and only DeepSeek itself has been hosting it. So it remains to be seen how other providers, especially in the US here, will be able to, provide good inference on top of DeepSeek or not. But Kimi K2.6 is already out and it is already performing really, really well. I think in my early experiments, I found Kimi K2.6 to be much better than DeepSeek V4. But DeepSeek V4 can manage a 1 million context window that Kimi K2.6 cannot, right? So, there are a bunch of trade-offs here. At the same time, there's another one, which is DeepSeek V4 Flash. This is the model I'm very, very excited about. and you will see in just a minute why. Let me see if we publish this somewhere here. So DeepSeek V4 Flash is a really good but small model, which has less than $1, just 0.28 per million tokens output. This is unbelievably cheap, right? And if with caching enabled, which is like dirt cheap caching, this can do amazing things. I was just looking at our Slack, and one of our investors, PWE, David Thrice, he messaged me yesterday that he spent all day building Redwood SDK app, which is right now deployed to Cloudflare for their agent cribs. Spent almost just exactly $2 using the cheapest DeepSeek, which is V4 Flash. All of the code was built by command code. This app has an email, React email queues Slack notifications, GitHub OAuth verification, Magic Link emails, R2, KV, and storage built in. All for just $2. This is on the raw API cost, right? Can you imagine the amount of things you can build that are production ready with this model at this cost? This is like 100 times or maybe 200 times cheaper than 4.7, GPT 5.5 or whatnot, right? So the cost of intelligence is going down a lot, right? And this is how I basically see this world. Right now, I think if you use command code, you use some commercial model, let's say Claude, for a while, you will end up building your coding taste, right? Once you have built a coding taste with a better model, like a commercial model, like let's say Claude, Sonnet 4.6 or something, or Opus 4.7, for the next time when you are building a project that is similar to what you had just built, you can drop, I don't know, Kimi or DeepSeek models here. Command code will be able to use your coding tastes with these cheaper models, and this equation will be at least, and I kid you not, this coding equation will be at least 50 to 100x cheaper if you are using DeepSeek V4 Flash, or 20 times cheaper if you are using anything like Kimi 2.6 or DeepSeek V4 Pro, and 25 times cheaper on Kimi 2.5 and GLM5 probably, right? This is amazing. These are the same numbers that are being subsidized right now, right? If you are using Claude with their subscription like Claude 4.7, the rough math is roughly exactly this. They are giving you 20 times cheaper cost than API. And this is not gonna last long, right? We've already seen what is happening with Cursor. Cursor is getting acquired by SpaceX, most probably because they've been spending a lot of money subsidizing their subscriptions, which is probably gonna go away. And they are also struggling to find more compute to run open source models, right? When this starts to drop to, let's say, 10x, right? Which I think might already have happened last week because a lot of people are complaining about their limits hitting very, very quickly. We will see how quickly all these commercial models will become expensive. And by the way, these commercial models are expensive just because it's a closed source model. Yes, they are really good, but these companies who build these models pull out the pricing from generally thin air, right? They can choose to price it whatever they want, right? And if open source models are getting as close to these models, and you're able to host them yourself, as in you can find a bunch of providers who are competing with each other, selling it with the best form of speed and performance and cost, you can easily see why this equation starts to make sense all of a sudden. The moment this goes down to 5x, we will be seeing probably at the end of this year where Claude is, the subscription is too expensive unless until you're a business, right? And all these open source sort of models will have caught up to all these commercial models. This is very, very exciting. I think we are heading down to a path where the cost of doing a lot of work will just absolutely vanish. Maybe in 5 years, when Anthropic and SpaceX and all of these big labs are able to scale their, infrastructure and electricity from, like, I don't know, 7 gigawatts to 75 or 100 gigawatts, per year or whatnot. When 1 gigawatt right now is costing about $1 billion, we will hit that particular plateau, and the intelligence will be enough cheap for you to be able to build dependable things all by yourself. At that time, I think something like TS would matter a lot. If for the next 4 or 5 years you have been building and you've been building skills and teaching your coding agents how you do things, you are basically creating the smaller version of you. In my dream of what if I had more people like me on my team, as in, like, what if I had like 3 versions of me? I'm literally polyphasic. I go to bed twice a day, I wake up twice a day to be able to get more than 8 hours of productivity in a 24-hour window. That dream is going to come true very quickly because I would have trained a CLI making harness, a backend making harness, a front end making harness that is able to learn and adapt and adopt to the latest trends and automatically continuously improve their knowledge based on the way how I think about, based on my taste and my experience. I think that is when we will see how all of this will come together, and how all of a sudden we will see that, that things that are human in nature, like taste, that is your experience, will become a lot more interesting, right? Anywho, this is a lot of raw thoughts right now. I think the gap is getting closer and closer. DeepSeek and Kimi 2.6 sit very close to the sort of models right now. And again, you don't have to believe the benchmarks as they are. There's a lot of benchmarking going on. I don't use Gemini a lot, and for a good while, Gemini was actually leading the pack. But all of a sudden, Gemini from last 2 days is doing really, really well. So we don't have to just believe what is on a particular set of benchmarks, right? Because models can be tuned to benchmarks and fake benchmarks or whatnot, right? But the ground reality is the cost of doing intelligent work is going down with all these open source models. And if you are able to build a harness, if you are able to build and turn all of your thinking, all of what is up here, and turn that into notes, markdown files, a set of group of things that are built the way you do things, you are only going to multiply yourself by 10 or 100 in some cases, right? That is the future I'm very, very excited about. What do you all think of all these different models? I don't use GLM so much, but I hear it is really good. Maybe in the next video we can try that out. But yeah, this is pretty much it. This is Command Code. I'm Ahmad Awais. We are building a taste-driven coding agent. We want to help you accelerate yourself by making agents that understand you and the problem at hand really, really better, right? In a really good way, in a deeper sense of the word, right? This is what we are building, and I'm more than ever excited about the idea of open sourcing command code very, very soon, to not only accept the community's contribution, but also to completely unpack the hackability perspective of this, right? I want this coding agent to be as close to what you actually want AI to do for you, right? And that can only happen if I have control, or you have control over the software that you're running, and you can contribute and improve that software. And that software can continue to grow behind the scene while you only take care of the layer that is closer to you. Right now, that layer is just taste, but we are experimenting with a bunch of different things that we are very excited to launch. I love the name that I've come up with a team for that. Once we go open source, I will be talking a lot more about how you can do that. And it's also quite nostalgic for me because it has something to do with something that I cared a lot about when I was a kid. Yeah, with that, I'll leave you folks with this. If you have any comments, suggestions, feel free to share. With that, I'm out. Use your code for good. Peace.